record again. So this is the second part of the recording. Unfortunately, my internet is unstable today. So I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet, and I'll share my screen with you guys one more time. And we're going to look at the spreadsheet. So I think where we dropped the call was that if you were Mark Zuckerberg, Jake, there's no way, can you see my spreadsheet okay?
Yep.
There's no way that you would agree that you would provide your investors with their preferred shares at the same price that the founders, you and Paula, paid. So Mark would say, well, I'm just gonna decide, I'm gonna sell these preferred shares at $1. Oops. At $1 a share, okay? Okay, so instead of getting, 25% of it, that's very arbitrary. I mean, and this is, don't trust me, this is the way they do things in Silicon Valley. Have you ever heard, heads I win, tails you lose?
Mm-hmm.
That's the structure of this deal. I'm not saying this is the right deal, but this is the way it will work. So now, how many shares will they get? Well, they will get, in terms of preferred shares, it's very easy to calculate now, right? If you're charging $1 a share, they're going to get, they're going to still contribute the same amount of money, but now they're paying $1 a share, so they're going to get 66,666. I'll just round it off. Oops, the other way. They're going to get 66,667 preferred shares. Remember, previously they were getting 10 times that, right?
Yeah.
And so now the total number of shares that are issued will be the 2 million that you have, plus just 66,000 preferred shares, and the amount of their ownership interest in this business is very, very, very small. It's now simply 3%.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So
I guess that makes sense why Elon Musk spent $3 billion and only owns 9.2% of Twitter.
well, there's a lot going on there, but so I'm just highlighting the things that have changed now. Okay, and so this is case 2. Here we are. And what is this here?
That's our shares.
Yeah. So I mean, holy smokes! So now we could change that. So maybe you think that's ridiculous, so no investor agrees to it. So you say, okay, well we'll make them we'll issue it at 50 cents a share instead. Okay, it's all connected. Do you understand how I did that? So
Yeah.
if you issued it at 50 cents, they would get about 6% ownership in this business, and you would end up with 93%. So the reason I wanted to show you this is what those bandits do in New York City, in Shanghai, in London, on Bay Street in Toronto, and of course in Silicon Valley. This is, it's the heads I win, tails you lose. So I'm going to call this the heads I win, tails you lose model. Spell it okay? Yeah. There you go. So what I wanted to make sure you understood from all of this is that in entrepreneurship, there are no rules, right? The way I structure my deals is like case 1, because I want my investors to be treated just as well as myself, if not better.
Absolutely.
Same.
But I had to show you this because it's not fair to you if I don't show you that there are alternatives. And if you went to an investment bank in New York or Shanghai or Paris or London or Toronto or Silicon Valley, they would prefer this, obviously.
Yeah.
Now,
So would you say that this is the real estate wise, is it more common to see the case A structure
One, you mean?
or case one structure, sorry, versus something like this? Would this be more of like a tech company is kind of what I would picture?
I think it would be more of a tech company thing, but there's no reason why, as a real estate investor, you could, let's say you decided, okay, we're not going to go 5 times, but we're going to go twice. So we're going to go with 20 cents a share instead of 10. So they would get 15% of the company, and you would get 85% of the company. Do you understand?
Yep.
Yeah. So just kind of put it all together for me. So the 66,000 doesn't change. It's when you change the cost per share, it's the amount of not equity, but like the
It's an amount of equity that they get. Exactly.
percentage of ownership. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so this is the key variable here. And this is completely arbitrary. You just made it up. So I'm just going to go back to, instead of 20 cents, I'm going to go back to, I'll make it 35 cents. Just again, I'm going to make it 30 cents. I'm going to see if I can get them to 10%. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if I go 30 cents, so if you pay 10 cents a share and they pay 30 cents, they get 10. And you know what? Maybe the investors would say they'd be fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, most of their money is coming back to them within 5 years. So they're going to own 10% of this fabulous hotel, which might be worth $15 million in 5 years, and they paid 66 grand for it. Maybe they'd be perfectly happy with that. Do you understand?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that this is completely unfair, but it would certainly, let's say you decided to make this $2, okay, instead of 30 cents. Okay, I'm going to put 2 in here, and then watch, I'm going to hit the enter button. They'd end up with 1.6% of this business. Well, that's not really very fair.
Less desirable for investing, for sure.
I don't think I would do that. But
and Bruce, is an investor, like from an investor's perspective, I know it's going to vary, but are they looking for, like, what percentage of equity would an investor be looking for?
well, you know, if it's me, I would like to have 10% to 35%. I wouldn't want to own more than 35% of your business, because it's becoming dangerously close for me having to take control of the company if you decide to run off to Costa Rica and drink rum, right? So the reason that most investors don't want to go below 10%, Jake, is there's something called, I'm going to get it wrong, but oh yeah, there's something called a squeeze out provision. I'll just put that in here. So if your investor, Jake, owns, say, 9.9% of a business or property of a company, most jurisdictions, and every state has different laws, every province has different laws. So I don't know what Florida would say, but I'm pretty sure Florida would be the same as Ontario on this, is if, let's say I own 9.9% of this company, then the majority owners have the absolute right to squeeze me out. All right. It's just a question of what the price is, but I have no way of staying in the company. So if this company is doing really, really well, and it has a great future ahead of it, if I own 9.9%, I know that any time, at least in Ontario and probably in Florida and many other states, that you just can come along and say, Bruce, we're kicking you out. Just a question of what we pay you. That's it. Okay. So most investors that I know would know about a squeeze out provision, and they would say, look, I'm not going to invest for less than 10% of the company. I'm good with that. And, you know, maybe they'd go as high as 45%, but if they're knowledgeable investors, they definitely don't want to go any higher than that. So 10 to 45 would be the max, both from your point of view and their point of view. Okay. So you would own anywhere from 55% to 90% of the business, and they would own anywhere from 10% to 45%. That's a pretty typical number.
Awesome.
Okay, you guys pros at this now?
Yeah.
Definitely have a better understanding, for sure.
Let me know when you're ready for questions.
I am now. Let's do it.
Okay. So I totally understand that structure. Makes perfect sense. can you just kind of speak to, so how they would get their returns? Is it like a monthly thing, dividends, or like, how would that look?
All right, let's go back to the spreadsheet one more time. So that's a really good question, and I'll show you that. So we know on most of their money in this structure has been put in as debt, right? About $220,000 has come in as debt.
Yeah.
They're getting simple interest on it, whatever you and they agree to, 6, 7, or 8% for 5 years. It's capitalized, non-compounded. So in terms of cash flow, they get no cash flow for up to 5 years.
Okay.
From their debt, from their debt.
Debt, yes.
Yeah, that's clear.
Nothing. Okay, so let's just have some fun now with your question. Okay, so let's put down 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, those are your years. So at time 0, they're putting in, your investors are putting in that amount as debt, and they're putting in this amount as equity, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, and so the total of the two numbers of what they're putting in at time 0 is about $285,000. Now, on the debt, what they get at the end of 5 years is they get they get this money back plus this times, we'll say, I'm going to give them 8% just to be kind, times 5 years. You see how I connect everything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if I hit enter, so they give you $217,000, and at the end of 3 years, or sorry, 5 years, they get $305,000 back. They got $0 because you capitalized it, right? So they didn't get any money there. 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 But in year 5, they get all the money back. So their internal rate of return, which is the way that investors look, professional investors look at that, on their debt is equal to this number and this number. And I hit the OK, and I'll just make that a little bit. Is 7% per year. Why is it not 8%? Remember, I used 8%, but their internal rate of return is only 7%. Why is that?
I don't know,
I
actually.
actually don't know
Yeah, I don't know
either.
either.
Because you didn't pay the money every year.
Oh, okay.
It was
And
capitalized.
here, but
If I had put the 8% in here, 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 and here, it would have been 8. It would have been 8%.
Oh, okay.
So they're because $1 today is worth more than $1 5 years from now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So a professional investor would say, Jake, Paula, you're not actually giving me 8%, you're giving me 7%, which is true, because you're accumulating it and you didn't compound the interest, right? Kept it simple. You know what Albert Einstein said was the most powerful force in the universe, right?
Compound interest.
There you go. All right. Now, let's assume for the moment that this business makes, I don't know, could you make $200,000 a year in earnings, Paula?
Yep.
Easy. I shouldn't say easy.
Could you make 300,000?
Yeah. Like
On this one here, 20 unit, let's do, are we talking first year? Let's do first year, like 500.
or 3 in the first year.
300 in the first year. Say that.
Okay. And in the second year?
Let's go.
500.
Okay.
Actually,
Let me just
let's use more accurate numbers here. Yeah.
Here.
We'll get you kind of a better.
Yeah, give me some numbers.
So 20 units, Paul.
what? Give me this 20 units.
So let's use accurate numbers for this one. So what do you
Okay,
want
so
to
I
do?
did like, what are you gonna do?
So year one, let's do like 50% occupancy and use like a conservative number.
I'll say 200 a night. Times 20. divided by 2. So, okay, year one.
I'm not talking about the gross. I'm talking about what's left over after paying all your expenses.
Minus, let's say what?
43%.
34% for expenses, OpEx.
Okay, so.
Let's do like 400.
400 in the first year.
Okay.
And
Year
then
two.
want to add like 10% a year or something.
So what we'll do, just to make it simple, we'll make it 500,000 for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's just a number.
Simple. Yeah.
So on their equity, remember they own 10%, because I went to 30 cents this year, they own 10%, right?
Yep.
So they get, of that $400,000, Jake, they get 10%. They get 40 grand. And on the 500,000, they get 10% of that because they own 10% of the company. And it would be dividends typically.
Okay.
And
And that's paid at the end of the, not monthly or yearly?
no, I would do it. I would do it annually.
Annually.
It's too much work if you have to do it every month.
Okay.
You know, I wouldn't mind investing this. I get a check for $40,000 or $50,000 at the end of the year. That's not bad.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
especially, yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Wait. So you would think their internal rate of return on their equity is equal to internal rate of return. If you can see what I'm doing, the values are here to here. Okay. It looks like it's 62% per year, but it's not. It's much, much, much more than that. Why is that? Because this goes on forever, right? That 50,000 a year that they're getting because they own 10% of your hotel or motel or Airbnb or bed and breakfast, whatever it is, goes on forever. So in order to have an accurate understanding, we're going to say that this business, okay, we're going to say this business increases, the business itself increases at, we're going to say that you guys are magic at 10% a year, okay, increase in value. Okay, so the business at the end of 5 years has a value. It's not like you have to sell it, it's just a valuation. So what it's worth is equal to 4 million times, times 1 plus 10%. And then there's, you see the little hat sign up there at the top here? See the little hat sign up here?
Yeah.
That's an exponent. 5 years. So your building has gone up from 4,845,000 to 7 million. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to bound this. I mean, I could do a 20-year analysis, but we would be at it for a long time. So I'm just going to do it within 5 years. And so what they're really getting in year 5 is they're getting their normal dividend, plus they own 10%
Of 7.8.
of this,
Okay, that's cool.
right? So now look at their internal rate of return.
Cool, very cool.
All right. So when you show this to an investor, that's why I'm telling you, it's a better deal for the investor. He or she is getting most of their money back over the 5 years as debt, but now they own 25% for almost nothing. I mean, $66,000 to own a 10% of a $7.8 million building. That's a hell of a deal.
Oh yeah.
And you don't get 101%, trust me, on very many investments.
No, honestly,
So-
like you
so you-
understand from a different perspective, I guess, like, I think, well, I don't have this issue anymore, but in the past it'd be like, oh, well, like why would someone invest their money with us? But you look at this and it's like, this, like, I mean, this is
a fantastic deal.
like
And,
you
when I was a billionaire before the damn hockey team went broke, these are the kind of investments I made all the time. Even though I was
Yeah.
in my 30s and 40s, I had lots and lots of young people come to me, like people like you, and they would have these great deals. And I had so many of them. Unfortunately, when all those assets went away, a lot of these companies that I own, 10% of 30% of it, the bankruptcy trustee said, "Oh, these are great. We can sell these for bundles of money." And unfortunately, I didn't get any of that, right? That's
Right.
my fault, not nobody else's fault. That's my fault for buying the damn hockey team. If I stuck with real estate, we wouldn't be talking, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
This
So I
is-
mean, so
this
good
is
things
cool.
happen, even though the bad things, right? Because I love doing what I'm doing and enjoy your company. But when I send you these spreadsheets, this is really important, Jake, for you and Paula to understand this, so that, because you're going to build a really big business, I have no doubt about it, and I'd like to help you as long as you want me. And if an accountant, a lawyer, and a banker, and even a potential investor says, "Why would we pay 30 cents a share when you're paying only 10 cents a share?" This is why.
Yeah, absolutely. This is why. This is very, very cool.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think-
like very exciting.
Maybe on our next call, we can talk about, like, we've never structured like this or asked for equity partners, and maybe we could talk about how to, like, I guess,
Yeah,
pitch it.
so I mean, I've done, literally hundreds of these deals now, because, I've had 2,500 people go through my coaching practice. And so we've done hundreds of these. So what we'll do is, when you find, people, there are two different ways of thinking about this. One, do you know Dave Dubois out in BC?
Yeah,
Know who he
well,
is,
we know
yeah.
who he is.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, he's a bright guy, and he's very charming. I like him a lot, but he and I don't agree on how to find investors. He believes you get investors before you find a project. I believe you find investors when you have a project. Because if you came to me and said, "Bruce, I want to show you some spreadsheets that my coach and I made up, where you're going to get 100% return on your money," I'm not interested in that.
Oh, it doesn't exist.
They haven't found it.
It's what we just created was a fantasy. If you have a real deal, on the other hand, it's like what my dad said to me when I had a crush on a girl when I was young, and he asked me, "Does she reciprocate?" I said, "Actually, I don't think so, Dad." He said, "Well, next." And I said,
Yeah,
"Well,
no,
no."
absolutely.
The
Like, I
real
think-
thing, as you know, Jake, is a hell of a lot nicer than the fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, and you could also line people up for a fantasy, but like they're not really committed because there's nothing to
Well,
commit to.
Dave says you can get them to commit, but it's a little bit like market research, Paula. When I was trying to get the Senators deal put together, the NHL required that we do a market study. So we hired one of the best firms in the world out of New York, Hill & Knowlton, to do a market study of Ottawa Gatineau. It's called Ottawa Hall back then. And about 1.3 or 1.4 million in the area. And they did a market study. And they said, they presented, it was a huge document, and they presented it to me and they said, "Oh, in Ottawa Gatineau, you can sell 100,000 season tickets for NHL hockey." I said, "That's great work, guys. Thank you so much." And I immediately sent that off to the NHL. And as soon as the Hill & Knowlton guys with their, $6,000 suits left my office, I burst out laughing because I knew it was completely ridiculous. In Chicago, which is a much bigger city than Ottawa, they work really hard to sell 15,000 season tickets. And to say that we could sell 100,000 in Ottawa Gatineau, I was happy to send that to the NHL. Say, "Oh, look at this. This is fantastic.
There you go.
Ottawa's great." But I knew it was complete bullshit. That we would be lucky. I said to my guys, I said, "We're going to have to work really hard to sell 12,000. They said, "Oh, no, look at that research." I said, "Yeah." So, Paul, if I come to you and I say, "Look, we're going to have an NHL team in London, Ontario. Would you buy a ticket?" "Oh, yeah." "Would you pay $2,000 for a season ticket?" "Yeah." "Would you pay $5,000?" "I'd pay anything." Now we get the team. We knock on your door and say, "Hey, Paula, where's your $10,000? "Oh, well, I didn't really mean it."
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Easy to
dead.
say-
Oh, yeah.
Easy to say
Times have
yes,
changed,
but
yeah.
it doesn't exist.
It was ridiculous. Ridiculous. So market research, at least in my experience, is very, very, very weak. All right. And so, the idea of investing in a theory to me is like having a girlfriend who isn't your girlfriend, or a boyfriend who isn't your boyfriend, or having Hill and Home do research that is absolutely valueless. And of course, I
No,
do
I
that.
can see that.
Yeah, I mean, so by the way, I do market research, but I do it differently. I do something called guerrilla marketing research, and I'll tell you how it works. Let's say I'm interested in establishing a co-working space, which I'm actually working on right now with one of my clients last night. And Shreya said to me, she asked me, well, how do we know if we buy this particular building, the co-working space, the mini offices are going to work? I said, you don't. She said, well, there's a risk there. I said, there is, but I think you can do some market research. How would we do that? I said, I want you to run on Kijiji last night. I want you to run ads saying, we've got awesome co-working space. I can't remember which town they're in. Anyway, one of those towns in the States, I think it was. We've got this awesome co-working space, $895 gets you this, and this, and then there's parking, and there's internet, and there's all kinds of really goodies. Call me, email me, whatever. And I said, run that for a couple of weeks on Kijiji or Craigslist, whatever's hot in your neighborhood. And she said, well, we haven't even actually bought the property. They have it conditionally under a conditional agreement of purchase and sale, but they haven't actually bought it, right? I said, well, there's nothing that says you can't run an ad. And if the agreement, you don't fulfill the conditions of the agreement, you walk away, you say to the people who've asked you, sorry, the transaction failed and we weren't able to buy it for whatever reason. It's guerrilla marketing research, because now people are making real buying decisions. They have a real location, in their city, a real price, and they can say, hey, listen, I'm an accountant, I'm a massage therapist, I'm a physiotherapist, I'm a lawyer, I need a professional looking office, this is a great location, I need a parking space, I can afford the $900, sign me up, right? And then Shreya can say, yeah, listen, well, we've got a list here, and we'll send out some documents when the right time comes. And I said, if in the next 2 weeks you don't get any response, that probably you might be right, that there's no demand. She's worried that everybody is going to decide to work from home forever. And I said, I do a lot of work in this space, in the co-working space. Plus, I ran the largest mini office business in Eastern Ontario. And people are sick of working at home. If you have 5 little kids at home, like I did when I was younger, and you're thinking you're going to work from home, good luck with that. As soon as you can, you're going to get out. And all the co-working spaces that I coach, and there's some in LA that I coach, and there's a couple in San Francisco, a few across Canada, they're all really busy now. 2020, different story, right? Everybody was afraid to go out their door. How many people are wearing masks in Florida?
Mhm.
Not very many.
I bet you don't see many.
No, none really.
I think we were at the grocery store yesterday. I think I saw one.
Yeah, and apparently a mask doesn't protect you from other people. It protects them from you.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're the only person wearing a mask, good luck.
Yeah, and yeah,
If there's
And
20
not
people around you who have
properly
COVID,
fitted
you're
and-
getting COVID.
homemade.
Yeah, it's a homemade mask, I mean,
Yeah.
even the masks that we have here, N95 or whatever, they're good, but not a whole lot of protection, I'm afraid.
No.
All right, so are we clear as mud on that?
Yeah, I thought of one thing, a suggestion for you, actually, if you haven't already done this. You should write a biography.
That's nice of you to say.
Because I was going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, but I was like, oh, that'd be awesome if you had a
We
book.
could read your book.
Yeah.
I know you said you were done.
Because I was going
but-
to ask you what you did before, like what kind of stuff you did before you started the Sens. Like, were you in real estate before or business before?
I did write Don't Back Down. Just give me a second. I'm going to send this to you, Jake. Hang on.
Sure.
Also don't know if we said or told you to, but so we coached with Stefan Arnio, and so we got his like the magazine or whatever that he put out, the one and only, and we were looking through it the other day, or I guess it was a couple months ago now.
Yeah.
We're like, Bruce is in here, like because you're in there.
But we didn't. When we
didn't-
signed up with Stefan, we didn't know of you. So
Yeah, so it's kind of
Like,
it was kind of
well,
cool. We saw it after the fact that because we only coached with Stefan for a couple of months before he passed away, so
Yeah, it's sad to see him pass away so young in his 30s, and he was a nice person. Although I'm not sure that his coaching was something that I would strongly endorse. You know, his coaching was a little different.
And in all
I wouldn't
honesty,
endorse it now that we did it either. Like it was not, but yours is the best.
absolutely by far the best.
Thank you for
I
that.
think like with what we got from Stefan was we got recognition and I guess like almost like credibility, even though we hadn't really done anything.
Yeah, it kind of kickstarted us at least.
It definitely kickstarted us, like
Yeah.
made
as far
people
as,
aware
like,
of us. But
I asked Stefan before he passed away, you know, when he was teaching some people to flip houses. In my opinion, most people who flip houses flip until they flop. It's a very, very hard thing to make any money at, really.
it is. You
And there's a
have to
lot
pivot.
of risk. And you know, he was very honest with me. And he probably knew he was dying. So it wasn't, what's the point in lying at that point? And he said, Bruce, I charge people $60,000 for my coaching. So, oh, that's a lot more than I charge. And he said, 94% of the people I coach fail. And I said, Stefan, that's, you know, if I had a 94% failure rate in my coaching, I would stop coaching. I wouldn't continue. He said, well, you know, yeah, I make money at it. I said, yeah, I know that, but that's a pretty high failure rate, you know?
That's very high.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and you know,
I put 2,500 people, Jake, through my practice, and I've had 7 or 8 failures.
Yeah.
So my failure rate is maybe 2%.
Yeah, we've learned so much from you, like through our growth journey. Like, you know, we started with like the flipping thing, but like, you've opened our minds into so much more things. Like even the stuff we're doing back home now, I'm like, well, there's a lot more options. There's a lot more
Even just
things, right?
business in general.
Yeah, like business
we
stuff.
didn't we didn't learn anything about business like from his program, basically.
So let me share with you this book over here. So this is a story I wrote for the 25th anniversary of the Ottawa Senators. It's called Don't Back Down. And you know, most people think, this is me when I had hair, Paula.
That young guy, eh?
Yeah. People look at a lot of, you know, I was on television all the time, lots of thousands of interviews. So they think of me as this guy, and then they see me today and they say, what the hell happened? I said, well, I was in my 30s and I'm 70 now. Thanks. But I'm going to send you this. Do you notice at the bottom what it says?
The personal history, that one, yeah.
Can you see that, Jake? It says a personal history.
Yep.
So this contains a lot of, it's not an autobiography. It talks about the Senators, talks about the National Hockey League, it talks about professional sports, talks a lot about real estate, but it's also my own story. It is my story. And I'm going to send you the e-copy. So if you want, you can put it on your
put it on my phone.
You can put it on your, well, put it on your tablet if you have one. You know, it's got lots of pictures in it.
That's awesome.
Cool.
And you know, I wrote it as like a cliffhanger, and it's been optioned for a movie, by the way.
That's cool.
Oh, nice.
You know, the guys who make Letter Kenny.
Yeah.
Yeah, they optioned it. I said, who are you going to get to play me?
Yeah, who are they getting?
I don't know. You know, they just bought an option on it. Who knows if they'll ever do anything? But the boys, they're Toronto guys, so they're you know, they're too cool for their shirt. You know, those kind of guys.
Yeah. Are they actually from Listowel?
Yeah,
They're from Listowel, Ontario. One guy.
Yeah, I think they are. But anyway, they're very cool guys. I mean, they literally, they justifiably are cool guys, you know. But anyway, I've never been cool. I mean, I can be funny, but
you're pretty cool, Bruce.
Well, thank you. But anyway, they like the story because it really is an underdog story. You know, in the early 90s, you guys are much too young to know, but in the early 90s, we were in a really tough recession. Canada had a huge federal deficit. And we lost 2 teams in the National Hockey League. One, the Quebec Nordiques went to Colorado, and the Winnipeg Jets went somewhere else. And people thought the chance of Canada getting another NHL team at that time was zero, and we proved them all wrong. So it's an underdog story. But Jake, it does talk about some of my personal journey. You know, it doesn't include all of the things that I've done, because you know, if I were to live to 90, I might write the real story. I mean, this is the real story, but it's highly edited. You know, I did things when I was a young fellow. I traveled all over the world, and you know, I'll give you an example. It's a good story. You know, I fell in love when I was a very young man with a beautiful girl in California. She was lived in LA, and her dad worked for Hughes Aircraft Company. Do you know who Howard Hughes is?
Yeah.
He was like this amazing inventor, but also kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And he worked for Howard, and he knew Mr. Hughes, one of the very few people who actually had seen the man in person and knew him, because he was a total recluse. And he had, I have to tell you, the most beautiful daughter in every way. She was brilliant, sexy. She had everything a young man would want. Trust me on that. Super smart too. And she was at the University of California at Santa Cruz. And we lived together. I was 19 and she would have been 20. We were both going to the university, and we lived in a coach house in behind the big house. So this is where the coach house idea came from, because I lived there with my beautiful lady friend. And so there was this big house in front and a little coach house. And so we had this beautiful garden, and I had a beautiful girlfriend, and went to the University of California. It was 1969. We were an hour south of Berkeley, so there was a lot of anti-war stuff, and there's all kinds of things happening at the time. And her parents really liked me, I think, and I really liked Chuck and his wife as well. And I loved their daughter. There's no doubt about that. And we were together for 2.5 years. And, you know, I was getting to the point where I thought, you know, I was going to ask her to marry me. And then she discloses to me after 2.5 years that that she couldn't have any children. When she was a teenager, she got pregnant. And back then there was no, abortion was illegal. And she had a back alley abortion, and the guy had made a mess of her insides.
Wow.
And, you know, I was a young man and very simple in many ways. I wanted to, you know, get an education, get a job, find a girl, get married, and have kids. I love kids. And it really tore me apart. But we did things like, she was an anthropologist, and she took me to live with the Hopi Indians in Four Corners in the United States, where the one place in the United States where 4 states meet. And we lived for 6 months with the Hopi Indians in a wind cave, accessible only by hand and toe holds.
Wow.
We had incredible experiences. She was one of the only females in the history of the Hopi people, which is about a 30,000-year history, that was invited into the kiva, which you descend into through the roof, to observe you know, some of their most intimate ceremonies. And they all chew peyote, if you know what peyote is.
Yeah.
It's like mescaline. It's like mescaline. So there I was. I'll try it. And you know, so you know, for the next 2 days, you just go through these incredible experiences. First you're sick, and then you have these experiences. So I mean, I've done incredible things, but those kinds of things I didn't put in the book. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some of those things that are in there, but the 6 months with the Hopi and some of the other things that I've done, you know, and experienced, those are the kinds of things I would write if I was still alive at 90, and then you don't care, right? I don't want people to know I was doing peyote buttons with the Hopi.
That's
But
a pretty
anyway,
cool story. I don't
That's
know.
a cool story. Yeah.
it was a wonderful. I mean, she was an amazing person. I have wonderful memories of her, of course. And then I told her, look, I'm going to leave. So that's when I left for Australia. You know, I thought I need a new start, because when I loved her, and I think she loved me. And then a few years later, she committed suicide. You know,
Oh no.
still a young woman. I don't think she got to 30. And you know, it's one of the reasons why I've been so pro women's rights for most of my, well, all of my adult life, really, that people, who, I mean, I believe in the right to life. Don't get me wrong. I think children are wonderful and whatever, but if the United States, and it looks likely that they ban abortion, what they're going to do is they're going to force women to, back to what happened to Anne, to go into a back alley and die, many of them, or get their bodies horribly messed up. It's a terrible idea. So
Absolutely, it's terrible.
Just terrible idea that the Americans are going, I think, in the wrong direction. And it's not because I want, like, I have 3 beautiful daughters, and I told them all when they were teenagers, Paula, that if you get pregnant, come home. We want the baby. Don't worry about that. I'd rather you wait till you get married, but come home and have the baby.
Yeah.
We'll take care of you and the baby.
It's almost like ignorant to think like that it's gonna not happen. Like, it's crazy to think that it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So and some of my friends as I was growing up, and now some of my son's friends say, women's rights, women are too pushy and all this. I said, whoa, wait a second. You show me a country in which women's rights are not respected, where they can't drive, they can't go to school, they can't have a job. Those are countries you wouldn't want to live in. Oh no, yeah. I said, no, wait.
You don't even want to visit those countries.
I said, you go try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had lots of my friends, posted to Saudi Arabia, and their wives couldn't go out of the house. They can't have a drink. They can't drive a car. They can't get a job. They can't wear whatever clothes they want. I mean, I think a woman should be entitled to wear whatever clothes she wants to wear. And if a man can't control himself, that's his father's fault.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did with my sons when they were growing up, as when they were 11, 12, 13, 14, I told them what was going to happen. And I taught them things like no means no, respect, don't hit your sisters, don't hit a woman. And they're lovely young men now, and they treat women properly. But it's on the dad to do that. So I mean, a lot of that stuff you can't put in a book today because people are crazy today. They'll say, oh, you're pro-abortion. I'm not pro-abortion. I'm pro-women's rights. That's different.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree with you
completely. Thanks for sharing that story, Bruce.
That's very, yeah.
Well, I wanted to, and I think we become friends too. So listen, there's a couple other things I'd like to do. I really want to talk to you about this long yards model. I know you looked at it a little bit. It is, and in terms of what I'm going to do next, Paula, I am going down to Belleville on April 14th, where I have a bunch of investments. And one of the things I will do in the next decade is I will open a long yards in Belleville.
Like, when you sent that, we both were like really excited.
So
we're like,
I wanted to go through that. Just hang on a second. But in terms of my next 10 years, it is the only business I have ever found, and I've looked at it, probably thousands, but certainly hundreds, where it's as close to Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week as you can get. One of my clients bought an old mini storage place that was kind of run down. And he didn't build any more mini storage. He has a couple of mini storage buildings, but he just did the mini contractor yards thing.
Yeah.
His name's Peter Hodowitz. And I just talked to him before Christmas, and I said, and he's young. He's in his 40s, 47 maybe now. So he bought this. It was called Cosmic Storage, and it's now called Just the Spot. And he converted it to the mini contractor yards thing. After paying all of his debt, his mortgage, his operating costs, he makes about $27,000 a month in his jeans from this thing. And I said, and he's an engineer like me. I said, Peter, how many hours a week are you putting in on this? And he said, somewhere between 3 and 5 hours a week. And so it really is the Tim Ferriss thing. And I said, Peter, this is fantastic. Let's go build 10 more. He said, no. He said, I make $27,000 a month. Once I pay off my mortgage, that'll go over $40,000 a month. And he's an outdoors person, right? So what he wants to do, and he's the first client who ever said this to me, is he said, Bruce, I have a plan for my next however many years, and he's in great shape, so he can live another 50 years easy. I'm going to play.
Awesome.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's like,
That's it.
yeah, how much is enough, right?
How much is
talked
enough?
about
He
that
said,
too, like,
I'm making, and he's paying down his mortgage at a fantastic rate because it's so profitable.
Yeah.
And he works 3 to 5 hours a week on it, and he can run this thing from Poland if he wanted to. And you know, he does kite surfing, you know,
oh yeah,
all
yeah,
over
cool.
the world. And he goes also, you know, on like a snowboard with the kite. He
Yeah.
does races across the top of Norway at -20 to -40. He's amazing. He's got a beautiful wife and a fat one daughter. She's a she could be a Victoria's Secret model, this girl. And you know, and he said, I'm good. I'll within the next 5 years when I pay off the mortgage, so by the time he's 52 or 53, I'll be making 40,000 a month. I don't need any more than that.
It's
I
true.
like
I
that
like that
perspective a lot.
perspective too. Yeah.
So Chris Long is not far from you. I mean, I don't know how far Orlando is from Sarasota.
Yeah, it's not far.
2 hours, not far.
Yeah, it's not far. So can you put that on the agenda for our next meeting? And then,
Absolutely.
because I had it all ready today, but we took a little longer.
No,
I'll
it's,
walk you
yeah.
through the model, and
Love it.
if you like it, I'm telling you. And so for the next 10 years of my life, when I listened to Peter, I mean, I listened to him, I said, geez, maybe I ought to do a little bit more playing. And
You should.
to afford that, I mean, I like coaching, but coaching is like an hourly wage, you know?
Yep.
And I am the world's leading expert in mini contractor yards. I have a client now in the mini contractor yards who's making gross income from now his yards are bigger. His yards are half an acre, not 4,000 square feet. They're like 20,000 square feet. So he has bigger yards and he charges for it, and he puts a Kwanzaa. He's making gross over 5 million a year from one site. His net's around 3.5 million. It's incredible. So I was kicking myself, Paul. I said, "What the hell? I'm teaching all these young people to do this. What the hell's wrong with me? I should have done it 5 years ago because it's such a great." But I'm like Peter. I want one.
Yeah, one. That's
One is good, you know, and I'll leave it to my kids. So that's my story.
that's cool.
That's
That's
cool, yeah.
very.
So put it on the agenda for next time, okay, guys?
That's
I got her
genius.
on the list here. I'm definitely putting that on.
I'm sending you Don't Back Down and the spreadsheets that we did.
Thank you,
Hey,
Bruce.
if you want to do something for me, you and Paula, you could write, you know, what you were saying, some nice things you said earlier as a testimonial, and you could send that to me.
Absolutely. Will do. Thanks,
You
Bruce.
guys,
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
talk to you soon.